America, the land of opportunity. But what happens when the cost of opportunity itself becomes out of reach? This isn't a hypothetical question. It's a stark reality playing out in living color across our nation. From bustling cities to quiet rural towns, the cost of living is skyrocketing. Yet wages for many remain stagnant, leaving millions trapped in a relentless cycle of struggle. Consider for a moment two different worlds within our borders. In one, a single parent working full-time at a minimum wage job can barely afford a one-bedroom apartment. They make impossible choices between rent and groceries, healthcare, and childcare. Their American dream feels more like a distant echo than an attainable reality. Now picture another city where a comfortable life is within reach for even those earning modest wages. Basic necessities are affordable, access to healthcare is less daunting, and the pursuit of education or starting a small business doesn't seem like an insurmountable financial hurdle. This disparity, this stark contrast in living experiences, lays bare the core issue at the heart of the minimum wage debate. The current federal minimum wage, a paltry $7.25 per hour, simply doesn't reflect the economic realities of vast swathes of the country. The cost of housing, groceries, transportation, and healthcare has continued to climb steadily, while wages for those at the bottom of the economic ladder have remained virtually unchanged. This disconnect is unsustainable, both morally and economically. It's time we address this crisis head-on and explore bold solutions like California's proposed $50 minimum wage. California, often a trendsetter in social and economic policy, is once again at the forefront of a national debate. This time, it's the audacious proposal to raise the state's minimum wage to an unprecedented $50 an hour. This ambitious target, while met with both applause and apprehension, shines a spotlight on the urgency of addressing income inequality and the ever-widening gap between the rich and the poor. The Golden State's proposal is a far cry from the current federal minimum wage and even surpasses the minimum wages set by other progressive states. While some states have opted for gradual increases, California's proposition is a dramatic leap forward, aiming to catapult low-wage workers into a new economic reality. Proponents of the $50 minimum wage argue that it's a necessary step to combat poverty, boost the economy, and ensure that all Californians can afford a decent standard of living. They point to the state's high cost of living, particularly in urban areas like San Francisco and Los Angeles, where even a modest lifestyle demands a substantial income. Opponents, however, express concerns about the potential impact on businesses, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises, warning of job losses, price hikes, and a decline in economic competitiveness. The debate is fierce, fueled by passionate arguments on both sides. As California grapples with the potential ramifications of such a bold move, the nation watches closely. The outcome of this debate could have far-reaching consequences, potentially shaping minimum wage policies and the economic landscape of the entire country. The potential benefits of a $50 minimum wage are hard to ignore. For millions of Californians currently struggling to make ends meet, it represents a lifeline, a chance to break free from the shackles of poverty. Imagine the single mother working 2 minimum wage jobs, her days a blur of exhaustion, finally able to afford a safe and stable home for her children. Picture the young college graduate, burdened by student loan debt, now earning a living wage that allows them to pursue their dreams without drowning in financial despair. These are not just abstract scenarios. They are the lived experiences of countless individuals and families across the state. Individuals who are the backbone of our communities, working tirelessly in essential jobs that keep our society functioning. A $50 minimum wage has the potential to transform these lives, providing not just financial stability, but also dignity, hope, and a path towards a brighter future. Beyond individual empowerment, a significant increase in the minimum wage could have a ripple effect throughout the entire economy. With more money in their pockets, low-wage workers would have increased purchasing power, leading to greater demand for goods and services. This surge in demand could stimulate economic growth, create new jobs, and boost local businesses. Furthermore, a higher minimum wage could lead to a healthier and more productive workforce. When workers are relieved of the constant stress of financial insecurity, they are better able to focus on their jobs, leading to increased productivity and reduced absenteeism. A healthier and more financially secure workforce is a boon to both businesses and the economy as a whole. The current reality for many low-wage workers in California is a far cry from the promise of prosperity. Despite working full-time, many struggle to afford even the most basic necessities. They face impossible choices daily, forced to prioritize one essential need over another. Rent consumes a disproportionate share of their income, leaving little left for food, transportation, healthcare, or childcare. The constant stress of living paycheck to paycheck takes a toll on both physical and mental health. The inability to afford healthy food, coupled with the lack of access to affordable healthcare, creates a vicious cycle of poor health and financial instability. Many are forced to rely on government assistance programs, a stopgap measure that should not be the norm in a nation as wealthy as ours. The stories of these individuals are a stark reminder that the current minimum wage is simply not a livable wage in many parts of the country. Take, for instance, Maria, a single mother of two working full-time at a fast food restaurant in Los Angeles. Despite working grueling hours, she struggles to put food on the table and keep a roof over her children's heads. Her story is not unique. It's a reflection of the daily struggles faced by countless low-wage workers across California. These are the faces of the minimum wage debate, the individuals whose lives hang in the balance as policymakers grapple with the complexities of this issue. Their stories are a powerful testament to the urgent need for a living wage, a wage that allows individuals to not just survive but to thrive. Section 5. A business perspective. Navigating the impact of increased labor costs. While the potential benefits of a $50 minimum wage for workers are clear, the perspective of businesses, particularly small businesses, must also be considered. A dramatic increase in labor costs could pose significant challenges, forcing businesses to make difficult decisions about pricing, staffing, and overall operations. For some, particularly those operating on thin margins, such a change could be the difference between staying afloat and closing their doors. The restaurant industry, heavily reliant on minimum wage workers, would likely feel the impact most acutely. Faced with significantly higher labor costs, restaurants would need to find ways to absorb these increases without alienating price-sensitive customers. Menu prices might rise, potentially impacting demand, while some restaurants might explore automation or reduced staffing to offset the increased labor expenses. Retail businesses, another sector employing a significant number of minimum wage workers, would also face similar challenges. Increased labor costs could lead to higher prices for consumers, potentially impacting sales volume. Some businesses might consider reducing store hours, cutting back on staffing, or exploring online sales options to mitigate the impact on their bottom line. The manufacturing sector, while less reliant on minimum wage labor, would not be immune to the ripple effects. Increased labor costs in industries providing raw materials or components could lead to higher production costs, which could ultimately be passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. This interconnectedness highlights the complex and far-reaching impact of a significant minimum wage increase. Section 6. The ripple effect. From mom-and-pop shops to corporate giants, the impact of a $50 minimum wage wouldn't be confined to individual businesses. It would create a ripple effect throughout the entire economy, influencing everything from consumer spending to investment decisions. With more money in their pockets, low-wage workers would likely increase their spending, particularly on essential goods and services. This increased demand could benefit businesses across a wide range of industries, boosting economic activity and potentially creating new jobs. However, this increased demand could also lead to higher prices, as businesses adjust to the rising costs of labor and raw materials. Inflation, although a potential concern, could be mitigated by increased productivity and innovation, as businesses seek ways to offset higher labor costs through efficiency gains. The impact on investment is less clear-cut. Some investors might be hesitant to invest in businesses facing higher labor costs, potentially leading to a slowdown in certain sectors. However, other investors might see opportunities in businesses catering to the growing purchasing power of low-wage workers, leading to increased investment in those areas. The overall impact on the economy is complex and difficult to predict with certainty. A $50 minimum wage represents a significant shift in the economic landscape, and its effects would likely be felt across all sectors, with both winners and losers emerging from this transformation. Section 7. States in flux, examining minimum wage experiments across the nation. California's bold proposal doesn't exist in a vacuum. Across the United States, a patchwork of minimum wage laws highlights the ongoing debate and the diverse approaches being taken to address this pressing issue. Some states, like Washington and Massachusetts, have adopted relatively high minimum wages, exceeding the federal minimum by a significant margin. Others, primarily in the South, have opted to stick with the federal minimum, arguing that higher wages would harm their economies. These varying approaches have created a natural experiment, allowing economists and policymakers to study the real-world impacts of different minimum wage levels. Initial findings suggest that moderate increases in the minimum wage can have positive effects on low-wage workers without causing significant job losses. However, the impact of more dramatic increases, like the one proposed in California, is still uncertain and requires further analysis. For example, Seattle's implementation of a $15 minimum wage has been the subject of much scrutiny. While some studies suggest that the policy led to slight job losses in the restaurant industry, others argue that it boosted wages and reduced poverty without significantly impacting employment levels. These varying experiences highlight the complexity of the minimum wage debate and the need for nuanced, evidence-based policymaking. California's proposed $50 minimum wage, if implemented, would provide valuable insights into the potential consequences of such a bold move, offering lessons for other states and the nation as a whole. As states experiment with different minimum wage levels, valuable lessons are being learned about the potential benefits and challenges of such policies. One key takeaway is that the impact of a minimum wage increase is highly dependent on local economic conditions. What works in a thriving metropolitan area with a high cost of living might not be suitable for a rural community with a lower cost of living and a less robust economy. Another important lesson is that the implementation of a minimum wage increase needs to be carefully considered and potentially phased in gradually. A sudden dramatic increase could shock businesses, leading to unintended consequences like job losses or price hikes. A more gradual approach, allowing businesses time to adjust and adapt, might mitigate these risks. Furthermore, it's crucial to recognize that a minimum wage increase is not a magic bullet solution to poverty or income inequality. It's one tool among many that can be used to address these complex issues. Complementary policies, such as affordable housing initiatives, job training programs, and accessible healthcare, are essential for creating a more equitable and just society. The ongoing experiments with minimum wage levels across the country provide valuable data and insights that can inform future policy decisions. By studying the successes and challenges of different approaches, policymakers can craft effective policies that improve the lives of low-wage workers while fostering a thriving economy. Behind the economic data and policy debates are real people whose lives are directly affected by the minimum wage. Their stories humanize the issue, reminding us that this is not just about numbers but about the well-being of individuals and families struggling to make ends meet. Take, for instance, Sarah, a single mother working as a cashier in a small grocery store in rural Mississippi. Despite working full-time, she earns the state's minimum wage, which aligns with the federal minimum of $7.25 per hour. After paying for rent, utilities, and groceries, there's little left to cover unexpected expenses, let alone provide her children with opportunities for enrichment or a safety net for the future. On the other side of the country, in Seattle, where the minimum wage is $15 per hour, we meet David, a young man working as a barista while pursuing his dream of becoming a musician. The higher minimum wage has allowed him to afford a small apartment, pay for his music lessons, and pursue his passion without constantly worrying about making ends meet. While challenges remain, the higher wage has provided him with a sense of stability and hope for the future. These stories, though just a glimpse into the lives of millions of Americans, illustrate the profound impact of the minimum wage on individuals and families. A higher minimum wage can be the difference between struggling to survive and having the opportunity to thrive. It's about ensuring that every individual who works hard can afford a decent standard of living and have a shot at achieving their dreams. The minimum wage debate often seems like a zero-sum game, pitting the interests of workers against those of businesses. However, finding a solution that benefits both parties is not an impossible dream. It requires a nuanced approach that considers the needs of both workers and businesses, recognizing their interconnectedness and the importance of a thriving economy for everyone. One potential approach is to implement a tiered minimum wage system, with different minimums based on the size of the business, the industry, and the local cost of living. This approach recognizes that not all businesses are created equal, and that a one-size-fits-all solution might not be the most effective. Another option is to provide targeted tax breaks or incentives to small businesses that increase wages or offer benefits to their employees. This approach would alleviate some of the financial burdens on businesses while encouraging them to invest in their workforce. Furthermore, strengthening worker training and apprenticeship programs can help bridge the skills gap, equipping workers with the skills they need to succeed in higher-paying jobs. By investing in workforce development, we can create a more skilled and productive workforce, benefiting both workers and businesses. Finding a balance between the needs of workers and businesses is crucial for creating a more equitable and prosperous society. It requires open dialogue, collaboration, and a willingness to explore creative solutions that benefit everyone. California's proposed $50 minimum wage is not just about a number, it's a powerful symbol, a lightning rod for a much larger debate about the future of work in America. In an era of automation, globalization, and widening income inequality, the very nature of work is changing, and with it, the social contract between employers and employees. A $50 minimum wage would represent a radical shift in this social contract, signaling a commitment to ensuring that all workers, regardless of their occupation, earn a living wage. It would challenge the status quo, forcing us to confront uncomfortable truths about the value we place on work and the people who perform it. The outcome of California's bold experiment will have far-reaching consequences, potentially shaping the national conversation about the minimum wage and the future of work. If successful, it could inspire other states to follow suit, leading to a significant increase in the minimum wage across the country. However, if it leads to unintended negative consequences, it could have a chilling effect on similar proposals elsewhere. Regardless of the outcome, California's bold move has ignited a crucial conversation about the future of work and the kind of society we want to create. It's a conversation that needs to continue, with voices from all sides represented, as we navigate the complexities of the 21st century economy and strive to create a more just and equitable future for all Americans.